Today, it's a guest-filled episode. We're going to be joined by John Garcia, the Director of Football Recruiting for SI.com and Locked On's Recruiting Insider, to talk about Arch Manning. And then we'll be joined by Florida Gators women's basketball player Zippy Broughton for what I think is one of the best interviews I've ever done. Only here on Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. Happy Friday. I'm Brandon Olson. Find me on Twitter, WNS_Brandon. Find my written work with Whole Nine Sports. Leave a like, subscribe, comment, review, whatever it is. Let me know what you think about the show. Let me know how I can make it better. And joining me right now, it is John Garcia, the Director of Football Recruiting for Sports Illustrated and Locked On's Recruiting Insider. All right, and we are back on Locked On Gators. Joining me now is John Garcia, the Director of Football Recruiting for Sports Illustrated, the college football recruiting analyst, and he is Locked On's Recruiting Insider. And we're going to talk a little bit about Arch Manning, someone who, when I first brought him up, when Florida made his top 5 or top 6, I brought him up, and the backlash was absurd, actually. Like my listeners were just like, we don't want him. Manning's not going to come to Florida. And it makes no sense to me, but you would know about him. What is he like as a player, and what's his recruitment been like?
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't take Arch Manning at this point? I mean, this is just the latest one. He's arguably the top quarterback in the country. You know, our rankings won't come out until the summer. We've seen every top candidate in person. But look, it's a loaded quarterback class, and Arch Manning's in that conversation for a reason. You know, he's going to be a 4-year varsity starter at Isidore Newman down in New Orleans, and he brings a lot of that Manning pedigree in between the ears. You know, you talk to his coach, and there's like minimal mental mistakes. He processes quickly. He gets guys lined up. Does a lot of the little things that we don't necessarily talk enough about at the quarterback position. It's more like, hey, how well does he throw it? Well, he could throw it too. You know, he's 6'4". He's actually a really good athlete at this stage. He does play basketball for his high school team, but it's not a guy you're going to design runs for. But he can play mobile, get away from that initial rush, feel that, climb in the pocket, do things like that. That, again, comes with maturity and experience that he has relative to others in this class at the high school level. And then the pure physical traits with the right arm are rock solid. As you would imagine, the mechanics are strong. The release is quick. He is accurate. He can push the ball to all 3 levels, and he can fit the ball in the window. You know, I think when we think of the Mannings, you know, Peyton's arm dissipated over time. Eli was known for having a good arm, not an elite arm. I think Arch has an opportunity to be a little higher on that spectrum. I don't think he's got the best arm in the class, and he might not be top 2 or 3 with the pure arm mechanics, but the consistency is there. There's enough power to get the ball down the field. So I think he throws a little bit closer to Eli than Peyton in that regard. So there's a lot to like about Arch Manning, and every indication is that he's a kid with a gravitational pull as well. So it's not just these physical traits and this intellectual ability on the field, but he's like a jokester. He's like a kid. You know, he's a kid. He's not this like all business robot that is like the Mark Zuckerberg of football. Like, no, he actually, like, he's a jovial, like fun loving kid. Like, you'll see him joking with his teammates and his friends and all of that. So I think that perception doesn't exist because he's not on social media. He's not, you know, all over all these interviews doing things like that. But again, that's by design from the Manning family, really kind of above his head and out of his control a little bit. But once he does hit the college ranks and gets in front of a mic and a video screen or a camcorder, you know, he's going to become that face of a program in short order. And he's going to be well liked, you know, which is kind of weird because right now he's got a lot of haters. As you mentioned, when you brought him up, you got a whole lot of backlash. Look, his recruitment is all over the place at this point. You know, the only schools we know he isn't going to are the ones that have quarterbacks verbally committed, and Florida does not. They've offered him. They've offered several others, so they're still in that mix.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still just like jaw to the floor, surprised that I was like, oh, Arch Manning put Florida in his list, and my listeners were just like, no, hate it, and it just made no sense to me because I watched him what I could, and I was like, this kid he can sling it. He's a Manning, so he's smart, he's mechanically sound, he can do all the quarterbacking things, but he's also, like you mentioned, he's an athlete. Like he plays basketball. We've seen him move a little bit. He's not Anthony Richardson. Like I don't want him hurdling people. I don't want Anthony Richardson hurdling people. Mainly because I think that that's going to get you hurt, and I'd rather a quarterback that stays on the field. But realistically, if you can, uh, do you think there's a legitimate chance that we get him in Gainesville?
Define legitimate chance, right? I think that's the intrigue around Arch is that there's no definitive list. There's no visits that are 100% locked in. The family at one point this spring, yes, Brandon was trying to get to Gainesville. That is something that is still certainly possible. Arch has taken 0 official visits to date. We are understanding that he's going to take multiple official visits before all is said and done. So, do you have a puncher's chance if you're Florida? Yes. Do you have as good a chance as Alabama, Texas, Georgia? Probably not. But again, there's so much assumption surrounding Arch Manning's recruitment because he is not being definitive about any of it, and that is by design. So it does create a little bit more extended hope relative to the programs that are actually in the mix. But who saw him going to Virginia for a multi-day visit? And then when you look into Virginia, oh, his mom went there. Oh, his older sister goes there right now. His family's got some ties to that program. So it tells you it's not all about football with Arch. He's going to truly explore as many options as possible. And that's why, especially with the new coaching staff that is very familiar with the state of Louisiana, where Arch is from, I do believe that there's a chance he gets on campus. So that's your first order of business if you're a Gators fan. Check on Arch and see if he sets that Florida Gator visit and then go from there. But until that point, until he truly eliminates other schools or makes a commitment, you do technically have a chance for Arch Manning. So it is worth talking about.
I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. I'm just going to say that. I know a lot of people are like, you just mentioned family ties with Virginia, and people are like, oh, Peyton's a Tennessee volunteer. I don't care. If he's a good player, I want him in Gainesville. So I'm hoping that that Florida does have a legitimate puncher's chance and can make some stuff happen with him.
Yeah, if it was all about the family, he'd been committed to Ole Miss 3 years ago, right? Like the moment Lane Kiffin got the job, they would have said, hey, we're coming. And that's it. It can't all be about those things. I mean, Tennessee was really never in it. So to assume that he's going to just, follow a legacy or do something like that would be incredibly naive. But this is college football. College football fans are largely incredibly naive and very they fire from the hip, let's say, when it comes to the opinions out there, especially in the great state of Florida. So it's par for the course, but I'm sure if Arch visits and commits to the Gators, I'm sure all of that will go away magically quickly.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, John, for coming on to talk about Arch today. We're going to have you on next week, multiple days to talk about multiple targets for the Florida Gators. Make sure to catch John on Twitter at @JohnGarcia_Junior JR, the director of football recruiting for Sports Illustrated and Locked On's Recruiting Insider. It's spring break time. It is almost summertime. It is time to get fit. You got vacation coming up. Got to get in shape for it. I know that I got to, and you guys know that I've got a hardcore sweet tooth by this point, and Built Bar helps me out there because Built Bar is coated in 100% chocolate. Most bars have 130 calories and just 4 net carbs, along with 17 grams of protein throughout the hidden stashes, the Reese's in the desk drawer, the Kit Kat in the cupboard, whatever it is. Don't feel guilty. Get Built Bar. Eat it clean, eat it right, and make you feel good. They're always coming out with new limited time flavors, so you'll never get bored. Use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off of your next order with Built or BuiltBar.com. We are back with Locked On Gators. Brandon Olson here, as always. Joining me today, Florida Gators women's basketball guard, Zippy Broughton. Zippy, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Another day. I'm blessed.
All right, and I'm glad to get this going. Like my listeners know, women's basketball gets coverage pretty much every game here. We're here to talk about. We got a few interviews coming up, and I am determined to get Coach Finley on. I don't know how it's gonna happen, but I'm gonna will my way to that one. But I want you to walk me through the past year or so because you were at Rutgers for 3 years, you hit the transfer portal, came to Florida, and it was under the previous regime that you came here, and then Coach Kelly Rae Finley stepped in as the interim, and the season was just insane. I was someone who, after that first 2 weekends, I was like, this team just like, I don't see them going super far. And then I'm going to be honest with you. I have no problem saying that. That NC State game broke my will.
Yeah.
And then that run where you guys just annihilated teams and the top 25 win after win after win was just insane. So what was that season like for you?
Man, it's funny you bring up the NC State game. I feel like, obviously the best of the best teams don't go through that, but because we went through that, it definitely taught us a lot of character, and it made us face ourselves in the mirror. Like, yo, do we want to repeat of the previous years? So from that game, and then also the loss to George Mason, that definitely kicked us in the behind. And then after that, that's when we just started, improving more and more. And then SEC play came, and we, to the outside, we were a completely different team. But for us, everyone just started to lock in, and we learned how to gel together. Everyone was happy for each other's success, and from there, the success showed on the stat sheets.
Yeah, I hate that you mentioned the George Mason game because I have a friend that works for George Mason, and
Yeah.
I did not hear the end of it. I didn't hear the end of it at all for that one. I was like, yeah, great, thanks. But the biggest change this past season was Coach Kelly Rae Finley going from, I mean, she was an assistant, then the interim, and then she dropped that interim title. And just how awesome was that moment, and how awesome is it for Coach Finley to now be the permanent head coach?
Man, it's exciting. She's a huge reason why many of us choose to come to Florida. She's a hell of a recruiter. So with her getting the head coaching job, it was no hesitation for me to choose to stay here another year. It was once they said that she was the head coach, I'm like, wow, I don't have to leave again. Like, we're all good. So that helped out a lot.
Yeah, and what was it like that final stretch where you had the SEC tournament and the NCAA tournament? Just what was that like? Kiki Smith got injured, and unfortunately, and that was the we did it for Kiki post game interview. Just what was that little stretch like for you guys?
Man, it was honestly tough. We lost Kiki, then we lost Jordan, and then we lost Faith. So it was a very tough stretch. But especially with the underclassmen, it gave them a new role. Everyone on the team had a new role. I was the point guard. Many people's minutes went up. The freshmen were expected to play. So after that, everyone saw the potential that this team could have, but we just weren't ready. And in a good way, it exposed us. So we can use that momentum to carry us on to next year. But man, it was tough.
And you just mentioned you becoming the primary ball handler for the team. How important is it for you to be a well-rounded player? Because a lot of people think of you as that shooter because that you weren't the primary ball handler. You were a scorer. You're a playmaker, a proven playmaker at this point. And I feel like not enough people talk about your defense. You're a ball hawking guard there. You've had multiple games with 4 or 5 steals. And just so, how important is it for you to be a well-rounded player?
Man, it's very important. Sometimes I think of it as being a jack of all trades. I'm still finding that thing to be, dominant in. But especially with me being a leader of the team and everyone looking at me, I have to be able to, contribute in different areas. And, with them looking at me, I can't just be here someday, not here another day. So I try to stay consistent in everything.
Yeah, you're someone who your role this coming season is going to be magnified at this point. With Kiki Smith is now gone, and she was I would say, like, statistically, I'd say she's like the Russell Westbrook, where she's getting points, rebounds, assists, she's doing everything.
Yeah.
And that role needs to be filled. And you just mentioned you're the jack of all trade. You're kind of the leader here now, so your role is going to be significantly improved. Do you have any specific goals for this upcoming season, whether it's personally or as a team?
Man, personally, I can off the rip say I want to be drafted. It's funny when I first got here. it was one of those things that I kept to myself because, I didn't truly believe it. And I was too scared to share that with people. But sometimes, you can't allow the fear of others be able to influence what you believe truly. So I can say proudly that I will and I want to be drafted next season. And for team goals, SEC championship for sure. I definitely want to build all my skills in leadership and building this team up into other leaders. But an SEC championship, man,
All right, and I just got one more question about you on the court.
for sure.
Because I wasn't gonna ask it, and then you posted, I think it was your Instagram story yesterday, where you're like, oh, like when I make that face, that's like my defense is changing, like I'm in another zone, and I want to know, do you talk trash?
I don't, man. I'm actually pretty quiet. I can talk trash for my other teammates, like getting excited for them. But as far as talking, nah, man, I'm pretty silent.
Mm,
It's all about a look. It's all about a look.
it's just the look in the eyes, just let
It's
just
the
let them
look in
know.
the eyes. My teammates know when I'm in that mode. It's no stopping me.
Sometimes silence is scarier than talking.
Oh no, it is.
That's how it is sometimes. But we're gonna shift to kind of an off court conversation here. March Madness is over. The baseball season is here. NBA playoffs are here. The NFL draft is next week, and you can make yourself some money by betonline.net. It's your number one source for all of your betting needs and sports information. I've been using BetOnline for years now. I couldn't be happier with it. It's got so much, not just basketball or football, heck, not even just sports. You can bet on reality TV, award shows, politics, finances, anything you want. Head to the website today or use your mobile device, which is always how I bet there. And you can learn all about the trends and action there. Check out Bet Online. It's where the game starts. We're going to go back a little bit. We mentioned that you transferred from Rutgers. What kind of went into your decision to transfer from Rutgers? Because recently we've seen so many people just say ridiculous and ignorant things about the transfer portal,
Yeah.
which is one of the best additions to college sports. And I know that you put your 2 cents in on Twitter last week. So just what went into your decision, and what do you say about people that hate the transfer portal?
Man, honestly, well, in my opinion, people who hate the transfer portal are people who played basketball decades ago. Like, but the transfer portal, allows a lot of us players the opportunity to contribute to programs that we weren't able to before. And when I was at Rutgers, I love Rutgers. Rutgers will always have a special place in my heart, but I can never get it on the court. And it took me to leave to realize that I was always the one holding myself back when in other ways I was blaming, why can't I have this? Why can't I have that? When the whole time I had the decision to become better and I was too comfortable. And coming here definitely took me out of my comfort zone and I was able to take control. And once I seen a new direction of, hey, this is what I need to do to get to the next level, um, you know, everything changed. So I think the transfer portal will, highlight that for a lot of players and, you know, get them to be able to be in programs that allow them to be themselves, get them to be in programs that, fit their playing style. And especially after, all the COVID things, um, coaches weren't able to recruit as much as, I was growing up. So the relationships may not be the same. So I think it's a great opportunity. Do I think in some instances kids aren't being patient? Yes. Every situation isn't going to be perfect. But we can't judge, anything looking from the outside in.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the things with the portal too is you're asking 17-year-olds to commit years of their life to a program, and it's like, well, guess what? 17-year-olds don't always make the right decision for them, so the transfer portal allows you to kind of correct that if you didn't pick the right place. So that's why it's like
Exactly.
I'm for it, and the cream will always rise to the top. So
Yeah, for
whoever
sure.
is there. But a perhaps more important basketball question for you here. And I've had a football player on the show a couple weeks ago, Prince Luman Mealine. I had him here a couple weeks ago, and he answered this question for me. And given that you're a basketball player, I think you should have a solid stance on it. LeBron or Michael Jordan?
You know, I grew up my whole life saying LeBron because I was born in 2000, so I didn't grow up in the Jordan era. But it may sound cliche, but after I watched The Last Dance, I got obsessed and I watched a bunch of Jordan highlights. No one is touching Jordan. No one is touching Jordan, and the next person after that is Kobe. Like, I prefer the question Kobe or Jordan. Like, I love LeBron, but skillful wise, those two are on a whole different planet.
See, now I'm mad I asked the question the way I did, because when I asked Princely, I said LeBron, MJ, or Kobe.
Yeah.
But the Gators website has it listed as your favorite athlete, LeBron. So I was like, oh, LeBron or MJ is the conversation. Now I'm mad I didn't mention Kobe in there. But
They took that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was about to say they took that those questions from when I was at Rutgers. Being a 17-year-old, I'm not the same person I was, 4 years ago. So that's old, man.
Oh, all right. Well, now I know. But I'm gonna get on them to fix that one. And another thing I do with Princely, and I do with pretty much everybody that I know has tattoos, because I'm from a tattoo family. So I'm curious. Do you? Because you have two tattoos, if I'm not mistaken. You have the forearm and tricep.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, 5. Okay.
I got 5.
Do you have a favorite one, or one that's like most significant to you?
I'd probably say the one I just recently got. Probably because it's new, which is why I like it the most. But I have tattoos on my forearm that says "Walking Paradox." Yeah, I'd probably say that's my favorite right now.
I see. I can't answer the favorite. I have one, so it's like, oh, like I can't pick anything else.
Hey, how you come from a tattoo family with one, man?
I only got it a few years ago. Like, my family was like, we've had tattoos since we were like 16, and I'm like, I don't. They have tattoos that I don't want to be like. Yeah, no, I totally aspire for that one. Like mine. So I went to Toledo for college. So I have the Toledo logo tattooed on me because
wow.
I was like, it's an important time in my life as to develop. And they were like, that's a dumb tattoo, and I was like, you have a giant skull with roses across your entire thigh. Don't tell me. And I just have one more question for you here. It's not even really a question. It's just I want you to list your top 5 musicians, because I know that even the other day you posted, you're like, hey, like if you're playing the aux, don't play radio music here. We're here for underground, and I know that the Gators site, whether it's from Rutgers or not, has you listed as a Beyonce and J. Cole fan. So I want to know your top 5 musicians.
So, top 5. Mac Miller off rip, always top. That's always my go-to. Mac Miller. I'll probably say right now, Kanye. Drake. Oh, man.
I also got to ask, old Kanye or new Kanye?
Both, man.
Okay.
I used to fall in that category and just listen to people say that old Kanye was better. No way. He's continued to evolve. He stays hip to the generation. So it's hard to even choose. Yeah, I'll give you a top 3. Those are my top 3.
Okay, all right. I'm cool with the top 3. I'm glad I got that. I am a little upset that J. Cole's not in there though.
He will always be a top. He hasn't been in my go-to lately, but he will always be one of my favorite rappers.
Okay,
so,
all right.
I'll say J. Cole 4.
I like Cole, so I'll say that. All right. Thank you so much, Zippy. Make sure to catch her on the basketball court this season for the Florida Gators, leading the Florida Gators. Zippy Broughton. You can find her on Instagram at Zippy the Hippie. And you can find her on the court. Hey, I'll give it the shout. And you can find her on the court this season, winning the SEC championship. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with this Zippy Broughton interview just as a standalone, and we'll be back Monday with a brand new full episode of Locked On Gators. Now make your second listen Locked On NFL Draft. Ryan Tracy and former NFL cornerback Eric Crocker bring the NFL Draft to life every day with insight and analysis on college football prospects and NFL front offices. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olson. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. You can find all of my written work with Whole 9 Sports. That is WHOLENINE Sports, and I will see you all tomorrow.